All right, let's start over with just a quick overview of AE2 P2Ps, just for knowledge. So a reminder, P2Ps are pretty simple. They take an interface and they transport it somewhere else of sorts, right? So basically, if you're looking at these P2Ps, they're taking the AE2 face that provides 32 channels and storing it, and then you're outputting it somewhere else to use the channels, right? Key part is whenever you do a P2P network like this, there is no power on the cables that are carrying the P2P by default. That's why you see me do this, where I have a black cable that's hooked up to the AE2 system, and then using quartz fiber to just transfer power and no channels. That way the entire P2P network is actually powered and, could actually work. Now, each P2P, you cannot P2P P2Ps, just as a note, just on that. But basically, we could take 32 P2P connections here and output them somewhere. Now, each of those P2P interfaces take one channel. So if you really want 32 P2P inputs to 32 P2P outputs, you need an ME controller, because otherwise you would only have 16 and 16, because again, the P2P interfaces take a channel. So this makes sure that you have enough channels to use all the inputs and outputs. Also, you're probably going to end up not using all the channels at one place. So having an ME controller can also help use a couple outputs for one input, depending how you do it, right? So there's that. Okay, so over here, you can see outputting P2P. When you're going to bind any P2P, I would use an advanced memory card. Make sure it's set to bind to input. When you right-click a P2P interface, or whatever you want to call it, P2P tunnel, sorry. When you click a P2P tunnel, fucking Thumbcraft, when you click a P2P tunnel, it automatically selects the current P2P tunnel you're looking at, right? Then with bind to input, all you have to do is find the input you want and then click bind. It makes it very simple. So for example, if I wanted to bind this one to multi-mixer, all I'd have to do is just click bind and then it does it. You don't have to worry about it past that. Just make sure it's specifically on bind to input, because if you have it the other way, it's going to fuck things up and it's going to be really annoying to fix. Trust. Anyway, which is also why when you bind it, it'll rename it too, which is nice. Anyway, to the special trick I learned recently. All right, here's the trick basically. I don't want to use 50 billion channels from our main network to run this chemical line. I don't. It's expensive, and then I have to run I'd run out of P2Ps way too quick. So I made a subnetwork using an AE2 controller over here and whatnot, right? Not connected to this provided power by the main network though. How does this work? Well, you see, use a little technique here where you use an interface and then 2 storage buses. You can get access to your other network. Now, here's the thing. You can't have it both ways. You either have to choose, you have to think about whether is the subnetwork going to be consuming more items, or is it going to be producing more items than the main network? That's what you have to decide on. Because if you try to do this setup for both networks, you're going to double your items in your network, and that's not going to be nice. So don't do that. I found that out the hard way. But basically, for this one, I'm going to be consuming more than producing. So what does that mean? I want an interface on our main network to make all the items. And then I put a fluid storage bus. I have a regular storage bus. No special settings here. I mean, you don't have to have extract only. You could just make it bidirectional. It doesn't matter. And I also have a discretionizer on the subnetwork for the fluids. I believe that's required. Unsure, but it seems to work. So what this is doing, it's saying, hey, I can see all the main network items and pull them. This is all it's doing. It's just giving access to all the main network's items and stuff. And I'd be like, okay, but how are you transporting stuff back? Well, see, this is fluid based mostly. There is some there is something, but if you want to provide items to the main network without having that issue, you actually need to use the main network cables to put storage buses. So that's why for the chemical reactor thing, I made this TFFT that holds 25 different fluids. So it's just one storage bus. That's it. It makes it so simple. And for the items, I did have to put storage buses down because there is no other way I can provide the items to the main network otherwise. I found this out this morning because I wasn't showing sodium hydroxide. Of course, that's basically the trick, right? That's the example of provider wanting to grab the main network stuff. Let's say you have this setup where I'm not, that is very loud still. Damn. But yeah, let's say, wait, how is this low? It's not. Okay. I don't know. I'll have to check that to make sure we're not generating edstone. Anyway, this one is a network that's actually producing more than consuming. So how does this one work? Well, just do the opposite. Interface on the blue network or subnetwork, and then you use storage buses on the main network. Nothing special there. Then that means if you want to get the outputs of this, same thing. You just kind of throw storage buses on all the stuff here. And if you need to import things, then you have to use the blue cable, which is what I was using below here. Where is it? Down here. So that's the thing. You basically decide between, do you want to use your channels to import items or to export items? That's the question. And it really depends, again, what you're doing. So for setups like this that are generating stuff, you would want it more to do the other thing. Oh, okay, actually there is one other thing. Hold on. If you want to export fluids and don't want to use as many channels, just use a quad hatch. You can pull from it and put 4 fluids in. Saves extra channels if you're trying to export multiple fluids, assuming you don't need them in immense quantity, because you can't really export that much. Oops, I gotta turn that back on. Just realized I forgot to say the P2Ps are not all the same. There is different P2Ps that you will need to have depending what you do. For example, there's a Greg Tech one. I know it says, hey, you need a cable to make it. You don't, but okay, that's creepy sounding. Didn't realize the turbine sounded like that. Anyway, if you're doing special stuff like Greg Tech Energy, you need to right-click it with literally any Greg Tech cable, and it will set it. Same goes for the other one. So the MB interface, you'd probably click with an interface. Item, you'd probably just click with an item. Fluid, you'd probably just click with like a bucket or something. I don't know. Probably, or maybe a universal cell, sure. RF is, well, yeah, you could see, like, probably the thing you click it with is a thing you would do to set it to that P2P. That is important if you're using other P2Ps, because the default ones are the channel ones. So if you want to hook up energy, don't forget to make it an energy one, or it won't work. And if you wonder why your things are power failing, that might be why. Now just realizing I should probably also... What in the fuck is going on? And I guess there's a mine spider below me. Anyway, so what was I gonna say? Yes. Alright, I gotta get rid of this boat because it can cause power issues. Okay, there are some Greg Tech specific things. I would recommend looking at the AE2 tab, since that pretty much tells you what they are. It's basically the stocking bus, the output bus, and the output hatch. All it does is the stocking bus lets you put an item in it on the left side. In fact, I will show you because I already have them. There's more spiders there. What the fuck? I will show you since it'll make it simple. The output or the input hatch lets you provide as many items as you have in the network. For example, I have thrown it on this thing. It's called the stocking input bus because it stocks things. You see, it provides all the moonstone I have in the system. It does not give a shit. Like, it's actually great. So obviously these amounts are low, but it can be like as much as your AE2 system can hold. So it'll just provide it. All that is to save you on an export bus. Many export buses, depending, because it can hold 20 different items. Then there's the output bus and their output hatch. They are exactly like the other output stuff, except you connect them with your AE2 network and it will immediately jam it into your network. Meaning, you don't have to like import or set up buffer tanks or anything. It's just more convenient. We can now make these in bulk because we are kind of rich now. I have an immense amount of platinum from platinum processing, which I would show off if I could figure out where I put that fucking interface. Ah, yes, it's over here. I am not used to this. But yes, as you can see, our platinum numbers are a lot. So please use those. They're very useful. There's probably other stuff. Sadly, we don't there's an advanced stocking bus, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, we don't have the one that stocks fluids. That's a UV thing. I want it so bad. We can't have it. There's also a crafting input bus, which would also be nice, where it automatically crafts ingredients that you don't have. So that's pretty fire. We're not going to worry about, I think, anything else. The only other thing I have to note is I have void cards, which if you're so wanting to use it, I have it like on the oxygen right now because it makes sense. But basically, you take one of the void cards that looks like this. You put the cell in the workbench, you throw it in, and all it does is if it overflows, it voids. I put it on oxygen because we had too many things making oxygen and it was filling the entire fluid storage. Because as you see, I actually do have some multi-cells that I've been wanting to hoard, different fluids. And the idea behind it is, as mentioned, we want to import fluids only to a certain point and then not leave room for, spare fluid from like other processes. So that's why the oxygen farm has not done anything for years, because we have this fluid level emitter on above and or equal to limit and a redstone card and set to active without signal, which is how I've been standardizing everything. That's basically how I do the standard. And for clarity's sake, not clarity's sake, but to explain the chemical reactors, there is a maintenance cover on them. I believe it's called it's machine controller, sorry. There's a machine controller on all of these that is set to disable with redstone. And it has this handy dandy thing up here that tells how much, liquid I have. This is the de facto standard. If you're going to do anything with passives, every one of these chemical reactors is a passive. Meaning I don't need to do anything. They will constantly make the liquid until we reach a certain amount. I have made one chemical reactor per liquid, so it's easily scaled. In sense of you could just upgrade the power or just add another chemical reactor really if you need. Nothing's intertwined. It doesn't make it really that hard. So if you're going to make passives, I would recommend doing that. Very useful. I even have some on the electrolyzers over here, since they were making me cryolite or fluorine and then chlorine. Yes, chlorine and fluorine. So I was basically exporting some of the dust we specifically have for this, being I don't really know whatever's in here. Cryolite, sol, bastnite, biite. There's a lot of them. They're not renewable. But we'll get there eventually. I gotta make more bees. Yep, more bees. Anyway, okay. Now I think I've covered literally everything. You know what? I'll just show off the plat line too, just in case you want a working example of how I did this subnetwork stuff. Might as well. So this one I'm doing a little differently, where I am basically taking I have a item conduit importing into the interface, because remember, this one we're pulling items from the main network to the storage buses on the blue network. And then on the cyan network is the interface. So on that interface, we have a item conduit that has the lowest priority. And we also have a fluid conduit for the one thing I wanted to import into the system fluid-wise. This is another way to handle it. Since I don't care about storing the things on this network, I just want to produce things on this network, I can jam everything into one interface. And that's it. No need for storage buses. Meaning the cyan network is taking a total of, technically 3 channels, or 4, because I'm using power, and then found out you could P2P, or storage bus or reservoir, which is very neat to know. Basically, realistically, you're only taking literally one channel in the cyan network to provide for the blue network and get everything done over here for the plat line. So, very nice. And that's where you could see I'm using a stocking bus to keep the platinum metallic powder, using it over here. By the way, you can just use output buses for this. That probably would have been simpler in hindsight. I just was kind of broke before I built this, so maybe I'll change it over. But more stocking input buses, and it works too. I mean, you might be like, no, I'm not caring about byproducts going into the main system, which is why this is fine. But do note, if you look at our palladium, the byproducts in there is insane. We have 7,400 palladium, but 100k metallic powder, and that's because we don't produce enough of the stuff to make the palladium. I need to start using ammonia, someday. There's a platinum, this is still untouched from before. But just explaining how that works. So, I mean, there's a little setup. If you guys have questions, feel free to just, ask me. I'll walk you through it when you get on, because it's very important for you guys to know kind of how this stuff works, because this is the new way of building bases. This is what we're going to be doing in the future. We're going to have passive lines like this. We're going to be using interfaces for all our automation, which I think you guys kind of understand that. If not, let me run through it real quick. Automation of this stuff is very simple. You guys already know the naming standard I've been doing. This doesn't have a naming standard because this is arbitrary cutting machine. Though I really should just name this ICS EV. So I'll probably do that after this, since that sounds like a better thing, or ICF, because it's Industrial Cutting Factory. But very simply, if you're going to have a circuit channel, you throw an interface. You probably don't want to do this where you target it, because I'm realizing if you have a liquid, you need to do something like this where you don't target it and you have a tank on top. So then the liquid can be exported to the tank, and then the interface will automatically push to the item bus below, right? Because that's a valid destination. Also, probably should have limit insertion on, because that would be smarter. And I don't know why that's not working. Okay, lovely. I'll have to look into that then, because I think something got fucked up. Because this did not clearly put enough liquid in. Lovely. We do love that. But yeah. So you're looking at that. But yeah, for any of the other machines, like I said, usually it's like this one, forming press. So I did forming P. It could just be the acronym. It could just be something related to the machine name. And then C0, and then usually the tier power. I've just been apparently bad and haven't done that. Some of these I have interfaces called ignore. Those are just for the output buses, so it gets insta-put in. Good for the fast machines. I'm going to just stop rambling because this is just pointless. Just asking if you need help. Bye.